Why, hello everybody. Today we're going to be talking to Melissa Quinn from News-O-Matic. My name is Rich Portland. Welcome to the Edgate Powers podcast. We're talking about technology and how it's influencing edtech, where things are going, and I'm just super excited to have Melissa here today. And why don't you give yourself an introduction, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Sure, sounds good. My name is Melissa Quinn. I am the education specialist for News-O-Matic. I taught a lot of years, lose count after 10 prior to taking on this role. But it's been great being able to help so many teachers across the country, across the world with what I'm doing now. So enjoy it.
Well, that's a great place to start, Melissa, because probably a lot of people don't know about News-O-Matic. I have the pleasure of speaking to some of your associates last year and getting a little bit of insight. But why don't you tell us what News-O-Matic does? Because I think it's really cool what's happening and why you guys are doing the work.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think where we can start here. So the company was created because there wasn't a really great site for children to get their news. A lot of the news at the time, 10 plus years ago, was more geared towards more, adults. So the company decided, like, let's make these, world stories readable, I guess you could say, for children and for students. And that's kind of how it got started. And we've just grown, and we've grown exponentially since then. So we write 5 news articles every day, 52 weeks a year. We are covering local news, global news. We have different series that we run, and just all written for those students in a very fun fashion, very high engagement.
Well, that's fantastic, and I'm sure taking the political bias out of some of these things, right, and just giving the students some familiarity with what's happening in the world, and um, it's tied to curriculum too, which is I think fascinating. So why don't we talk a little bit about that because students are learning how to leverage that content, right, to help fill out papers or research things like that, and then you're tying it to education standards, which I thought was fascinating.
So every state has their, the plan. They have their standards that they follow. I know we tried to do the Common Core thing across the country, which honestly, a lot of the states wound up taking the Common Core standards and tweaking them slightly to fit their states specifically, but overall they're pretty similar. And so it's nice that we have these articles that correlate to all of the states across the country and fit their curriculums really well, and still providing like real world uh, examples of how these things are happening and events that are happening.
So, one of the things I'll give a shameless plug to Edgate, because we took and offered this free resource, which is the standards comparison maps. So we took Common Core and some other standards sets, and we allow people to go in and view what the comparison of the Common Core to a particular state. So you can see if you go into Kansas, maybe there's a 70% match within language or a 50% match um, within mathematics, and so you can kind of start to see, how close, you're going to match up if you meet the Common Core with your curriculum or with your content, and then you can kind of start to understand what kind of adjustments need to be made. I don't know if you've seen those maps yet, but they're hanging off of the website, and it was just an interesting exercise. I bring it up mostly because the exercise for Edgate, as we were kind of looking at this, it showed that interesting uh, leveraging of the Common Core, as you just pointed out. It's like most states have used it and just kind of riffed off of it rather than, you know, made up their own standards whole cloth, right?
Right. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I've noticed over the years too. And even as teaching, I taught in different states. And I just noticed that the standards are pretty similar across the grade levels. Really, social studies is the only one that tends to be a very different depending on the state.
Okay. So social studies kind of changes depending on where you are. Is it bringing in local kind of historical content, or is it just perspective?
I think it's a little bit of everything. So it's a little bit of local, a little bit of a perspective, and it really just what is being taught at different grade levels. It very much varies. Like you could be talking about world history in the younger grades, and then in one state, but it could be in the upper grades in the in another state. It that does vary.
Okay. And just to remind everybody, Melissa is going to be joining myself and some folks from Edmentum and Edgate on a podcast in a couple of weeks, June 12th. There's going to be a link below for that webinar, which we're going to explore technology and education a little bit further, how some of these advanced technologies are starting to have effect and what people are doing internally to leverage them to hopefully get to market quicker, which is a goal. You know, as things change, as we see this ripple effect of states becoming more and more independent in not only their standards but also their compliance. Companies are struggling, so we're trying to uncover how they're getting to where they need to go so they can get contracts and can get their content published in classrooms. And so it's going to be a great conversation. And Melissa, we're excited that News-O-Matic agreed to join and have this conversation. You know, when you were talking a little bit about state specific. So when you guys start to look to get adoption within a particular state, can you give us an idea of what the process is for News-O-Matic?
Well, it's funny that you because I have an RFP that I've been working on that I have to work on this week, but it varies. It varies very much also by state, what they need, what they require, how they some just want us just send us, our platform and we'll kind of look at ourselves. And then other states are no, write exactly how you cover this standard. Like I want the article, I want an explanation, everything. So sometimes it's pretty in depth. But this it helps with being able to correlate, with Edgate and everything. So I already know, I can kind of see like, okay, well, these are the standards that fit this, or these are the articles that fit this particular standard. It's kind of great.
So in your case, you're using Edgate SMEs. Are you using Exact to
Using
start? Okay, so you're using that tool to start to kind of figure out the correlation and then get yourself aligned and ready to go into particular states.
Right. We correlate ourselves, a team of correlators helping out, because we write daily. So it's a everyday kind of process. And then it's nice because Edgate allows the flexibility to the way, without giving away how you do it. They give the flexibility to hide articles that may or may not fit a particular standard, even if I particularly don't want it to show for that standard, or I personally don't think it fits, even though, Edgate might say it fits very broadly. I have the ability to kind of hide those articles too, or even add specific standards to an article that may not have appeared when I just initially did the correlation. So it's been really great to kind of hone in that.
So here's a different process, and I want to point this out because I think it's significant to anybody who's watching. If you're a small ed tech company and you need to make do your alignments and get into states for with your correlations, but you have a smaller team, right? And you're using technology and you're developing 5 articles a day. So 5 articles, how many states are you getting those out to? That's a lot of material that you're releasing into your platform that has to be aligned, right?
Yes, I mean all the states have access to us, and then worldwide too. So we're looking to add on other standards like Canadian standards as well. So that's another another whole nother process there. But yeah, we have to make sure, and then our sales team gets a lot of questions like, oh, well, when our standards change, will your articles like reflect that? And that's what's so great about working with Exact and Edgate is that it's going to change automatically and seamlessly, and we can tell our customers, our potential customers, that so they don't have to panic. Because I
So
can't imagine changing the standards for every state, for every article, every time they change every like 4 years.
it would be crazy, right?
Nuts.
So tell me how what functions within Exact that you're using to allow your company to do that? Can you break it down a little bit for me?
That's like how it changed. Well, so like we get those updated. I get messages every Friday, what standards are going to be updated, when they're going to be adopted, and or if they're adopted, but then implementation too, that because that sometimes varies by years. They say, oh, we just adopted these, but we're not going to implement them until 2027. But at least we have all that knowledge. So Edgate gives us all that knowledge so
Okay.
that we can give our customers like, yes, we already know, we're prepared. Things are going to change over seamlessly. So when we tag, well, I don't know how much you want to go into the process of how you guys correlate, but
It doesn't matter. I mean, I think people want to they want to, have some discovery and I guess, for us and what we're doing here, we want to if there's flaws I don't know if you're if you're saying maybe there's some the issues or there's proprietary methodologies.
right, like the way you all tag everything, that's I know that's proprietary to you guys. So I don't want to give that away, but like when we tag, I mean, I'm not tagging specific standards. So I think that's what's been very helpful when they do change, because you tag concepts.
Yep,
And the
correct.
concepts, those on your end get changed to be tagged to those specific standards. So I don't ever have to change my content. I mean, Edgate has a lot of work with all the changes of their standards, I'm sure, but that's kind of what helps because we are a small team. I can't imagine correlating every article for 50 states plus the national standards. And then, oh no, I couldn't imagine. And do
Yeah, that whole concept thing. Edgate has multiple patents on that process, and that's how we ended up building the Exact tool. Is based on the idea that we're utilizing concepts in order to build our alignments, and then we were doing that by hand for years and years and years, and we perfected with the SMEs, and then we said, okay, well, how do we how do we start to leverage technology to speed that process? So it wasn't, hey, we're just going to start and use AI to do the work that we used to do with humans. We, started to leverage and look at, how can we use things like machine learning and semantic matching and other things that may take the process that we perfected by hand and make it go a little faster and go a little faster. So, it developed over time. What I'm intrigued by is are some of the reporting tools that are available now, like the gap reports. Uh, I'm curious if News-O-Matic kind of uses those on a daily basis, some of those tools to um, see the comparisons and be able to adjust content so you can meet standards quickly.
Yes. So we do some of the, I have like a whole spreadsheet where I use the data from how much coverage for each state. So
Yeah.
that gives me, so I pull in that percentage. And as we add more articles, because there's quite a few articles every week, I go in and check to see if that number has increased. So we keep our sale, that's how I keep my sales team up to date with the coverage. Because we're only correlating for ELA, science, social studies, and SEL if applicable. So those are
Okay.
the ones I'm focusing on. The gap, I don't have access to the gap what reports
Report.
ever. I know that I can look at a specific grade level for a specific state for a specific subject, and it will tell me exactly what articles are aligned to each standard. And sometimes it comes up 0. And so then I can we write daily news and it's very much news, but when we see a standard that we may be missing, we kind of like look for news that may fit that standard. So that's also helps for like getting that information from Edgate in that report.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you're looking for news that might meet the standard, and then that helps to kind of move the process a little bit quicker if you know that there's some match.
Yes, yes, we do that with our 50 states and 50 weeks series. We try to find some of the state specific news that may fit a standard we be missing. A lot, I mean, history standards are very difficult to cover in daily news, unless it's like a civics kind of thing. But so that's kind of where we go with that. Try to get.
And what, tell me about the 50 states and 50 stories that you're doing.
Yeah, this is our third year that we've done that, and it's just a way to kind of hone in on some state specific local news, um, because we are a global like newspaper. We have customers and students that read us worldwide, so we do have like we don't have time to do very state or city specific news that you might see in your no local newspaper, but we do try to hit on some different festivals. Or so in Pennsylvania we did we had a Taylor Swift day because she was born in Reading, so that was one of our state specific stories. And when we did a Puxatawney Phil, oh,
Okay.
always a good state story.
Yeah, that's solid in Pennsylvania. I mean, you can't go wrong, right?
Right. So like things like that we might just cover that might be a little bit more specific to a state that wouldn't be necessarily worldwide news. So it's kind of nice.
But that's good that so students are getting some exposure. You're meeting the standards. You're getting into the classroom. So, how are teachers using the content that you're providing in their lessons now? Do you have some, and what grades are mostly using your content?
So we are wide range. So we are K-8. I would say our sweet spot is 2 through 6. We've got a lot of teachers through 2 through 6 using us, and that's because the students are independently reading. Although we did lower our Lexile levels to catch some of those early readers just recently. So now we have 5 levels instead of 3 for each article, times 5 articles. So that's up
Wow.
for sure. But yeah, so they use it in the morning. I know a lot of teachers will use it in the morning, like pick an article to read, and then every day they'll pick one, and at the end of the week they'll choose which one is the most relevant to their classroom or to the students, or which ones they liked, articles they read like the best. A lot of them use it for like an introduction to maybe a
Okay.
more complex topic, or even like a station type rotation in your younger grades where they independently read. But we also do audio so they can listen to that reading. So small group, whole group. We just added active learning slides so you can project it on like a smart board or Promethean board or something like that. And then you can kind of go through these like slide shows and read the article and stuff. It was great.
So to accomplish multiple Lexile levels with the same article, how do you achieve that? That's pretty impressive.
That well, so we're looking to maybe refine that process a little bit, because with the addition of the extra 2, going from 3 to 5 is a lot. Right now our writers do it. They
Okay.
start at a level 5. They write all the content that they want to include for those like 7th, 8th graders, and then they level it themselves.
Okay. And how many writers do you have on your team?
I think we only have like 6 right now, 5 or 6. We freelance sometimes.
Okay.
So do
So
some for us as well.
so you have these 5 or 6 writers who are producing the 5 articles every day. They're also leveling the articles too. Do they take advantage of AI in some of their processes to help to speed
Yeah.
what they're
So
doing?
yeah, so we've been dabbling with AI a little bit here and there. I've actually been helping trying to create some prompts that take our guidelines, because we have very specific guidelines for like the range of the Lexile, so the diversity of the verbiage, the vocabulary. Like we have very strict guidelines. It's like a 65 plus page document of writers guidelines. So
Oh,
I'm trying
wow.
to condense it into an AI prompt. So the results we're getting are okay. With,
Okay. Yeah.
I would say, it's a tool. AI is absolutely a tool you can use. It's not the end all be all, and you definitely needs a human touch for sure.
Yeah, I think that's what we find a lot too. It's we can do a lot of material and a lot of correlations and alignments by hand or by with tools, but you have to, have some SMEs at the end of the process to refine and to really to polish it up, make sure it works. But these tools can save, human hours, and they can save, get you to market quicker, especially if you're doing this every day. I mean, that's it sounds like it's pretty intense going from, 8 to 5 every day and having to have results because you have to have those 5 articles into the classroom and ready to go. Um,
Yeah, so we
I
publish 5 p.m. every day.
and so how does that process start in the morning? Like give me a little bit of the day in the life of Melissa Quinn as you guys go through this whole series of things. Like, is there morning writing and then afternoon alignment, or what? Well, how do you guys manage all that?
Yeah, so I mean, we have different teams, even though we're a very small company, like maybe 20 people total, like that really work on the day to day. We have the editorial team, they meet around 9:30 every morning to discuss which stories they're writing, and any or upcoming stories as well. Like we know we get the press releases, we know what's coming up, so you can kind of plan ahead and prepare for that. Sometimes it's just like, oh, did you hear this happened overnight? We should probably write about it. And that definitely happens. And they discuss that in the morning, then they take the time to write and edit and throughout the day, so they can publish and be ready by 5 p.m. Now my role is very different. I work with the team in the morning, sometimes giving them ideas, telling them which standards we're missing. I'm like, hey, I need an article about this if you guys can figure it out. But then, working on the UI UX design as well, and working with marketing a little bit and training and like all sorts of things.
Well, I think that's it's a beauty of a small company, and that's part of the reason we wanted to talk to you because if, we're putting some of this content out to people to understand how a smaller company operates today, because when you have to kind of manage 50 states and all the logistics and all the standards and all the regulations and, but you're successful. You guys are out there and you're in the classrooms. And how many states utilize your content now? That actually you have contracts with?
This was just in an email, and I I read it. I swear I read it, but now I can't remember exactly what it said. I want to say we have, I mean, at least half for sure, like with hard, like with contracts maybe, and even very much ongoing contracts. There's a few that have, trials, or we may have a school or two,
Okay.
so it might not just be whole districts. We really huge in Texas, in New York, and lots of traction in Maryland and Mississippi, and some Florida. And if you think of the states that I mentioned, they're very
Very
different.
different. Yes.
Very different. But we've had to add some things like content filtering,
Okay.
just based on the states, like the laws of the state. If you can't show or talk about something in a specific state, we have to flag that article then. But it's not something that we want to give like access to anyone. You can just hide all the articles. It's really just because of the law says that state or can't have that in those for the students.
Okay. So, I mean, if you're doing work with, Texas, Florida, New York, I mean, just in that triumvirate, you have a lot of differences. That's impressive in itself, but say, 30-ish states that you're juggling on a daily basis with a small team of 20-ish people, um, that's congratulations. That, I think for a lot of smaller startups or ed tech companies who are trying to break into the market and understand it, um, that would be, that would be success to them, right? So, when did News-O-Matic start? How long have you guys been plugging away at this to grow your market and to get into 30 states?
So the company itself's been around since 2014, 2013, 2014, for a while now. I
Okay.
joined a little over 3 years ago. And at first it was a more of like a, what is it? Just like B2C, is that what I'm, business to
Yeah.
consume? model where it's just individual apps, like they just download on the app like a parent would, or it wasn't as big in the schools. And then when COVID hit and everybody went virtual and online and needed all these online resources, then we kind of really saw some traction in these schools and districts. And then we got the contract with the state of Mississippi. And so that kind of propelled, that's why I'm here. They're like, oh, we have funding now, we can hire you.
That's a story of ed tech companies. I started an ed tech company in around 2014. Gosh, yeah, it was 11 years ago now. And so I've been in that world, and understand. And I was telling somebody the other day, at that point, not really understanding standards well, and compliance. I was doing something called career path, which is career tool for students, probably kind of borderline whether we needed to add standards and some alignment in, but so much has changed from then till now. So here's you guys are a company that started around the same time. You've made that adjustment, and you've been able to grow your market share, add people, have influence within the classroom, and I think that's fantastic. Is there advocacy at the in the classroom or at the teacher level that you guys work on from a marketing perspective, or how do teachers get familiar with News-O-Matic so that they can adopt your content?
That's I think been the biggest challenge. Just if you're not well known. There's other companies that are bigger, like size wise, the 500 people as opposed to 20, and their marketing budget is they have one, you know, as opposed to like a smaller company. So that's been the challenge, just getting our name out there. We try with our attending conferences, or even a little dabbling in some reels on TikTok and things like that, Instagram stories, and trying to partner with different people to get our name out there. And
Yeah.
just because I think our content's so great, but I wish more people knew of us. That's just been the challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you're so busy in doing the work that it's hard to also, kind of talk about yourselves out there into the world, and build more traction. But it's happening, and with 30 states on board, and potentially Canada, that's I think that's fantastic. And when you look at getting into an international market, does that change the content that you're producing? Do you have to hire a whole new team of writers, or how do you go about that if you go into Canada?
So this is interesting. We are already working with a Canadian team. So the when we were acquired by a larger company, we still are, News-O-Matic, but they have a Canadian team. So we kind of work with them. We share stories. Now they'll do a Canadian specific article every day for their team, for their readers. But we are we trying to get a little bit more traction in the China market as well. And so that has its own interesting process, just because they are very stringent on what news can
Mm,
be read. But we've kind of managed to work around that, and I think we're good to go in that market as well. And our team works in France.
okay.
So we're very global, but we're very global to begin with. So I think that helps. Like, our market, our operations, and their CEO, everybody's, they're French. We have the French team, we have a Canadian team, and then we have us that are here in the States, and just kind of working with everyone. And we've been working with everyone. It makes that global jump into the global area a little bit easier, I want to say. And we translate into the 4 other languages. We're adding German, I think, come fall as well. So that'll be 6 languages total then. So it's great. It's been really great.
Good for you guys. And hopefully we can help get you more exposure. But in doing all of that, I mean, getting into different global markets, different U.S. markets, because there's 50 different U.S. markets. Um, you've relied on some tech and some wily ways to grow, it sounds like. Where do you see, how do you kind of continue to lever technology going forward? What are some things you can do to continue this growth and support, these new markets?
That's, I mean, the AI has been helpful for different, even just voice recordings a little bit, and just not just for the writers, but even for me, some of the content that I'm creating, lesson plans, things like that. It's, I can ask for suggestions, which is so helpful at times, and whatnot, and give us some suggestions for marketing and thing. But it's still people. We we rely on people, and you can't really replace people at the end of the day. No matter what tools are you see, you need people. So
And when you go into some of these new markets, like you talked about China, a lot of regulations. Are there also standards that you have to align your content to, or is it just kind of meeting the regulations?
for this one, we're meeting more regulations, and then we're trying to tap into some of those international schools. I think
Okay.
that's we're going to start. Yeah, we tried to change our database a little bit so it doesn't look like a daily news, but maybe more of like we'll have our daily news there, but it will be kind of more categorized, like a just a like a research type setup a little bit. But yeah, so it's more regulations.
And so it sounds like, if you had to describe News-O-Matic, it's almost like a AP for kids, because you're really building a global news organization. So your writers have to take in content from all over the place and then make it, specific to that particular region. So if I'm writing something for Canada, you want it to be, is it Canadian news, or is it worldwide news that just has a Canadian bent? Is it, are you, does this question make sense? Are you building one article and then adjusting it for each country, or is it multiple articles for each country?
So we're keeping the same content for everybody aside from the Canadian team, like I said, where they do their one Canadian specific article. Sometimes it overlaps, but we will write it, and it's going to be more of like we have like a category called around the world that isn't, and then we have a US specific category. So we might take that story, kind of change the verbiage a little bit around just to make more sense for our US readers. But we have to kind of keep in mind that we are global. So this helps with not having any bias,
Mm.
because we know that we have to write for a lot of different markets. So we just say this is what happened and keep it very much at that level,
That
which
makes
helps.
sense, and it makes it more straightforward, right? As to keep it unbiased. Um, so, um, in terms of the adoption, when you're going into these other states, are you still in countries? Are you still looking at K through 6 kind of being your primary focus, and outside of the U.S. as well?
So K through 8 seems to be kind of where we're actually, the middle school is kind of where we're pushing a little. We would like to see a little more traction in that middle level there, which is why we upped the level, made that a little bit higher, and making sure we're hitting those standards that are in those middle school levels. A lot of other countries use us to learn English. Uh,
Okay.
so they adapt. We even having a little an app within our a team or the company, the larger company, that has a I love English, news, and like they take our articles, and since we have the lower Lexile level, they can start to read just in English. Just like a learning to read English is kind of where we're hitting that.
Hmm, that's a really fascinating way to kind of make another leap here. So you mentioned that there's a larger company. Are you okay to tell us who that is, or?
Yeah, it's like a French company, Bayard. So they have Bayard Inc. in over here as well in the Canadian and North America. But yeah, it's kind of who they kind of took us over 2 years ago or so. I don't know how many years it's been now, maybe a year and a half. So
Okay.
losing track, but we still kept us who we are. Like we still are News-O-Matic. Everybody stayed the
Kind of
same.
autonomous and
Yeah, yeah. It was a very nice, I guess you could say, acquisition. I don't really know all the businessy terms, but nothing changed really on our level, except we do have a little bit more resources now, because we do have a little bit larger team, and so that's been helpful as well. But we're still kind of doing our own thing.
well, that's terrific. I mean, that's the best of both worlds. You have this access and some more resources, and you can still operate independently and continue to grow. And so you were talking about the writing team, and you have 20-ish kind of people. That's the global team, right? That's folks in France, folks in the US.
That work directly with us, yes.
Okay. And how many of those are salespeople going out and, trying to find new contracts?
Two or three.
I
Yeah.
think that, you know, I pointed out because, smaller companies who are trying to get into the market, having an kind of a sense of, what scale do you need to accomplish? You guys have accomplished a lot with a small team. So, it's possible. And that's one of the things we want to show is, how do you grow a small company in the ed tech space, and what do you need? So you guys have a small sales team. You mentioned there's not a ton of marketing, but a little. It's more, is it more self-generated from your whole staff rather than a dedicated department?
There's a few of us that work on it. Um, yeah, there's just like that's one of my many hats. Um, and I jump into it's like not maybe a marketing team, but it's there's a few of us that kind of work on it and keep up with just keeping us up with our social media, because that's just so important. Everybody's using it now, so we kind of have to make the time for it, whether we have the time or not. You have to make the time for it. And we also rely on some partners. So we do have teams, and like our New York City partner, or we have a team that sells in New York City, so that kind of helps as well.
Mm. So these are like 1099 people, or folks that are contractors, and they can help to grow your presence. So it's a nice way to expand the presence without having more people on staff.
Yeah, just like there are teams that sell different types of education products, and then they add us to their repertoire, and they can sell us as well. So that it's been we've had mixed results with doing that, but it does help. We'll get our name out there in different states that we can't, three people can't hit all the states all at once. So it helps with that.
So tell me a little bit about your platform. I'm looking at that great screenshot in back of you. And it looks like it's a proprietary platform. Is it web-based, or is it some software that has to be loaded onto a computer? How does it work?
So we have our web-based app, but we also have apps that you can download for iOS or Android as well.
Okay.
But I would say the best user experience would be in our web app.
Okay. So, and what makes it the best user experience? What about the web app that is preferential?
I just think the way, because we have so much content and tools and data for teachers, and all of that is available in the web app, where the might be limited in just the iOS and Android space, just due to screen size and just the how much content you can have in these apps. So but we have both, or all three, I guess you could say, because iOS and Android totally different.
That's right.
Yes, but I would say and they all need different types of updates. They can't, it's not all the same. So with a small team, you have to kind of pick and choose, what are you going to update first, and then what is the second phase and third phase. So we always make sure though that our, because no matter what device you have, you can always access the internet. So we make sure that our web app is absolutely the best experience that you will have always. And then we integrate with different single sign-on providers. So that helps too. They can just kind of one click sign in and begin reading.
That's fantastic. I imagine with students and schools, districts using different platforms, whether it's PowerSchool or Canvas or whatever else, there's all these LMSs out there. Being able to do a single sign-on is a big advantage. It gets you in the door quicker. And do you embed content in some of those LMSs as well? Is it content streamed over, or is it always viewed in your platform?
Mostly viewed in our platform. We do have like links though that you can share. So you can just grab a link to an article and drop that in your Schoology assignment that you're creating. And the students will be able just to click that link and it will open in our platform, but it's nice to have that link so they don't have to jump back and forth. It can all just be in Schoology. We also have everything's printable and PDF as well. So that's really great. It's very versatile for teachers. So versatile.
That's amazing and huge. I have my wife's a high school art teacher, so I live that life of hearing the things that go on in schools, and sometimes it's budget that restrains, or sometimes it's a number of kids that's kind of a limiter on what they can do. There's all sorts of limiters, and so teachers have to get creative in how they deliver and how they use content, and so being versatile, I'm sure is a major plus for those teachers. Now, you said you were a teacher for 10, 12 years?
Yes, I taught all the grades. Well, not all, but K1, 4, 5, 6. I'm a reading specialist as well, so I have a lot of experience with a lot of different students and abilities and levels and different states.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you bring perspective to this product that I'm sure is very, very helpful.
I don't think they always love to hear what I have to say. They're like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is how it goes in real life, like in the schools. But I would say we've grown, and I think hopefully I contributed to the growth, giving my feedback and ideas and stuff.
Oh, I'm sure you have, because people have great ideas for products, and if you're a product person, I'm a product person. I'm not a teacher per se. Um, you know, that's half the battle. If you understand, how the tech works and how you can get it to market, and here's the idea. But if you don't know how it can be applied effectively, then you run the risk of failure. And here you have this experience that you can bring to the team and say, hey, that sounds good, but we may want to do this. That's invaluable, because obviously you guys continue to grow. When I was talking to one of your French counterparts a couple of years ago, I don't think that News-O-Matic was in 50 or 30 states. I think it was like 5 or 10 at that time. Like you've grown pretty substantially in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Oh yeah, like I said, after the COVID, and then we kind of took off after that, and since then we've been just updating our platform, and a big draw is we are reasonably priced. I don't
Yeah.
I'm not in sales, so I don't actually know what those prices are, but I just know that helps, because I mean you have to think about where with budget cuts right now across the country, like at different states, and you got to make sure that you fit what's available funding wise, and we do. So that's pretty awesome too.
Yeah, I mean, once you're adopted, you're in the classroom, people are using, you've already established your presence, and they have your application. I would imagine it makes sense to be flexible, and adopt your pricing to whatever is available to a certain extent, so that you can remain intact, rather than trying to hold a hard line on a price that it may be unreasonable.
Right, because you never know, and especially right now, that's been very much of a concern for many districts, and there's concern about budgets, and there's some things that you can't. I feel like ed tech's one of those things that they kind of float, like they don't need it.
Yeah.
That's been the challenge too. Like, do we? No, you need us. You need us.
Well, yeah, otherwise, are you going and researching and writing articles or bringing in news from various sources which may not be credible or reliable? I mean, that's a lot of work for teachers to take on.
Yeah, I've read article, like not, I guess like some papers and things about how many teachers actually go out on their own and try to find nonfiction content for their students, and it turned like it's not vetted. Oh, like because we're vetted by a child psychologist too, so you're not going to see anything that you shouldn't see on our. I've totally forgot about that. That's one of our biggest things. And then so it's not vetted material. It's not like age appropriate. It's not even. It's the Lexile levels aren't accurate. Things like that. So, and a lot of teachers do that, but we have it ready for them. We have videos and images. Teachers don't have to go looking elsewhere for all that to accompany the article too. So it's great.
So you have a child psychologist on staff who's reviewing the material, and their job is to make sure it's not going to negatively affect a child's psyche.
More or less, yeah. If there is anything that comes up, like a sad, unfortunate events of the school shootings, like most the Texas one, a year or so ago, like we know we have a huge presence in Texas now. So do we write an article on that? Do we not? And we have, we confer with her and to see, uh, does it do more harm than good?
Yeah.
And that case, and it wound up I guess they wrote the article and decided not to publish it based on it would cause too much fear and anxiety. I believe the child psychologist said. And so then we'll write like we do have these little news bites, which just like a sentence of something that happened, and we would just wrote a sentence that it happened and not a full article about it.
That makes a lot of sense. And boy, that's invaluable to have that resource available. Like you said, if you're trying to do this by yourself, you're not going to have the availability of all these resources. But News-O-Matic has put them together, put it into a platform, and you have the right people behind the technology to make it all happen, kind of whiz bangy every day.
Make it happen. Some days I wonder, now that we're like talking about it, I'm like, how do we do this every day?
Well, that's the beauty of small ed tech companies that are growing, and I really appreciate your perspective. When we get onto the webinar and we talk to your counterpart from Edmentum, there's a big company that has infinite resources comparatively. Nothing's infinite, but they certainly have a lot of presence and folks available, but they're operating differently. But here you are, and you're both selling into the same market and finding success at much different levels. And I love looking at that, that difference and seeing how people are getting to where they're going. And if somebody who's watching this can glean a little bit of information and say, oh, that makes a lot of sense, I think then we've accomplished something pretty special.
Yes, it's challenging at times for sure, but then it's rewarding too when we get the information from teachers and how much they like us and use us, and well, I enjoy that.
Anything that you would want to add that we might have missed today?
No, I think we covered. We were always making updates. We have a new search feature coming out. Our searches was lacking, I guess you can say. It needed some upgrades, so I've been working on that pretty extensively over the past couple of months, trying to make sure that you can see our content, because yes, you see those 5 stories every day, and obviously I'm a Philly fan, so I picked this one as my background. But we have so much content. I want teachers to be able to see all of it, leverage all of it. So having ability to browse and check out our different categories is going to be great. I'm excited about that.
That is great. So, and is that a real example of what you can do in the platform? You can pick a favorite article and have it show up on your desktop and kind of customize the desktop.
I mean, I can. Definitely my favorite articles for sure. But like we have units and some custom units that districts people could they pick their favorite articles, put them in custom units, and share them across like schools and even across the district. And teachers can make assignments where they can choose a couple of their favorite articles and send that to students, and students can read or choose one of the articles that the teachers compile. So we have all that availability as well. And our units,
Fantastic.
I love my units. They're all of our like the texts that go together, because after 10 plus years of content, I have a lot of articles that go together that fit into nice little text sets. So I enjoy doing.
I could imagine that's a lot of articles over that course of time and has to be um, organized. And here using technology to bring forward what you want based on matches and keyword searches and concepts. That's pretty cool. Um,
It's
well,
great.
Melissa Quinn, I want to thank you today for joining the Edgate Powers podcast for having a really engaging discussion and sharing some of what News-O-Matic is doing. Um, we look forward to having you on the webinar, and uh, for now, I wish you all good luck in entering the new markets that you're pursuing.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.